The keys to success on almost any hunt are patience, determination, and a nice, easy squeeze. But when it comes to Coues deer hunting, you'll need all of that, plus a little luck.
Thank you. What a shot, George. Man, you just anchored him right where he was bedded.
Coues deer hunting is quickly becoming one of the most popular hunts in the Southwest. Best of the West got its first taste of Coues fever back in 2014 when host John Porter took his first Coues deer from 700 yards away.
Congratulations, way to go.
Thank you for showing me a piece of your neighborhood.
Yes, sir, it's an honor.
Coues deer thrive in the rugged desert mountains of Arizona, New Mexico, and Old Mexico. Referred to as the gray ghost by many, Coues deer use the tall grass and steep landscape to their advantage, making it very challenging to spot one and even more challenging to close in on one. Over the years, we've had many memorable moments in Coues camp. From Pat Romero's 1,000-yard shot on a Coues buck to hunting with World Series champions Randy Myers and Norm Charlton of the Cincinnati Reds.
Dumped him, Norm.
Good shot.
We've been a part of first Coues deer bucks taken, as well as finest Coues deer bucks taken.
5, 6, 7 inches.
Well, that's enough for memory lane. Now it's time to dial and dump some new memories.
Hi, I'm Dan Adler with the Best of the West and Diamond Outfitters. Bienvenidos a Sonora. Welcome to Sonora. Today for the 4th year back with our good friends Pat and George and THS. It's such a beautiful place. We're so excited to have the Best of the West cameras following us in the field as we chase the elusive Coues deer. Elliot Coues first discovered the Coues deer, or Coues deer, as a separate subspecies of the white-tailed deer, and it's attracted deer aficionados around the world for decades. I think it's most popular now because it's become one of the required animals of the North American 29. This year, we're following around Mike Borel and James Catanich as they chase the gray ghost during the January rut.
Suspicious, isn't it? I rusted again. I'm Mike Borel. I'm a hunter. I'm proud of it. And honestly, I like just about everything about it. I like the planning, the anticipation, the preparation to be able to accurately place a shot, whether it be with a bow or a rifle. I like it all. In fact, I even like hunting for a better than average parking space. So I'm pretty sure that hunting is in my DNA, and I really love it. It's absolutely magnificent country. It's mountainous, scattered brush, small trees, low grass. Doesn't seem to be any shortage of Coues deer. On our first day, we got here in the mid-afternoon. We were able to get out and hunt the evening, and we've seen deer every single time we've been out. And our normal modus operandi would be to get up early in the morning, be where we wanted to be at first light, and it's a glassing game. I pride myself in being a sheep and goat hunter. This is as similar to that, for any other type of game in North America that I've hunted. It really matches up. It's one of those things where you spend a lot of time behind your optics. You're trying to pick these things out across a valley. Maybe you'll see their ears twitch, or you'll catch an antler.
The first full day of our hunt didn't disappoint. We got to one of my favorite spots in the side-by-sides, or boogies as we like to call them down here. And it's a proven spot. And I know if you just put me behind the Husqvarna 10x42s or the big high-power 15s, that I'll be able to find deer. And one great thing about hunting with Mike and our camera operator T is they both bring optics too. So I had a lot of backup, a lot of guys with high-quality optics looking on the mountains. We were instantly finding deer. In fact, by lunchtime, we'd already found 7 to 8 bucks. Just nothing quite good enough. 3.5-year-olds, maybe one 4.5-year-old. But for Mike, we wanted to find something fully mature. Even though this was going to be his first Coues deer, we wanted to make sure at a minimum it was fully mature, give him a great taste for hunting with Diamond Outfitters, give him a great taste for hunting Coues deer, and give him a great overall experience.
Keep it right here when the Best of the West returns. Mike gets things rolling.
He's falling, he's falling, he's falling. He's falling down all the way to the bottom.
The Best of the West is brought to you by Hornady. Accurate, deadly, dependable. Zeiss spotting scopes and range-finding binoculars. Huntin' Fool. The Best of the West shooting systems. Defiance Custom Actions. The Wild Sheep Foundation. Husqvarna Optics and LongRangeStore.com.
The next day, we hunted the full day. We saw deer. We just didn't see anything we particularly wanted to chase. On the third day, but the second full day, we were over 700 yards away and weren't 100% sure of the buck, so we wanted to get closer, have a better look at it.
See the buck there? He's got a really nice frame, Pat.
As the sun started to hit one of the southeast facing slopes, I caught just a glimpse of an antler. I knew it was a buck. I wasn't quite sure what caliber buck or what age class. And then I saw a doe below take a 3-step jump, just boom, boom, boom. And I knew that buck was going to come out into the sun. So I alerted a couple of the guys and said, hey, that buck's going to step out. And sure enough, he followed that doe out, and he had that traditional pow, that wow factor you're looking for on your deer hunts back where you hunt. We were still at about 1,100 yards at that point, which even with our Husqvarna scope was a little out of Mike's comfort zone. As his doe fed down, he would keep her within about 50 to 75 yards at all times. And then we got to see something that a lot of whitetail hunters get to see maybe in Texas or the Midwest or back east, but us as Coues deer hunters, we don't get to see it a lot. And sometimes we forget these Coues deer are still whitetail. And this buck scraped and dug and made a beautiful branch lick and scraped and scraped and scraped for 3 or 4 minutes. After the buck made a scrape, it followed the trail down a little bit more and tucked out of sight. At that point, we knew we had a real opportunity to make a move to get a Husqvarna advantage.
We moved our way around. We actually got to an absolutely magic spot that was 400 yards away. I was set up and the deer appeared, but it had a very short distance to get out of sight and going down a little crease. We didn't get a shot at that point. We thought the crease was small. At least I thought the crease was tiny. And we waited, I don't remember even how long, but probably at least an hour. There was no resurfacing, so we decided we needed to circle around again where we could get a look in that crease. But we figured he had to be there because we could see both ends and we didn't see anything come out. And he was behind a doe when he went down there. So we made another loop around to a new spot, and we saw a couple of small bucks. We saw some does, but we did not see this buck, and honestly it was like seriously quiet most of the day, and we stayed clear up until the mid-afternoon, and since we hadn't seen him, nothing, we think he must have given us the slip somehow. So we went back and thought, we'll take a look there. So after not seeing anything at the setup point 3 for multiple hours, we decided to go back to setup spot 2 and see if it happened. Somehow it crossed over out of our sight. We got over there, we set up, we couldn't see anything, and honestly didn't see any deer there. I don't recall how long we spent, but it wasn't a long time. Since we couldn't see anything there, we maybe spent 40 minutes and headed back to point 3 and figured we'd just wait it out till dark. We were pretty confident he's in there somewhere. We thought the odds were still pretty good that he would pop up.
The sun was now starting to set. It was that nice evening movement, or what I like to call magic hour. And I just decided that I needed a little bit different angle onto where this buck had been. So I left T and I left Mike, and I walked about 40 yards away from them to a little different spot. And maybe 5 or 10 minutes later, I caught movement coming up over the ridge going to the first oak tree. And sure enough, there's our buck, and he's going right back to the tree where he had made the scrape that morning. He made a great scrape. In fact, I think we even got footage of him on his very back feet, scraping up and branch licking and gritting his antlers up in the top of the tree. I was able to get Mike's attention, get T ready to start filming the shot, kind of skimpered down the ridge back to those guys. And something I tell all of our hunters a lot, and it's important Husqvarna tip for you, never just range your target one time. 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, range is confirmed. And when all my shots said 410, 409, 410, 411, I knew we were set. We knew it was about a 410-yard shot, but a steep downhill angle corrected to about 367, 368. 367, Mike, ready when you are.
Adjusted.
Hit, down. Hit. He's running down to the bottom, guys. He's falling. He's falling down all the way to the bottom, darn. You got a lock on him. Nice shot, Mike. And at the touch of the trigger, the buck absolutely cartwheeled. And of course, Coues deer being a Coues deer, it cartwheeled down the nastiest part of that mountain, through the mesquites, almost all the way to the bottom of the ditch. Mike took his time, touched it off, and Mike was one and done on that Coues deer buck with his Huskama scope.
I feel like I've got a decent shot. I take it, and down he goes, and the rest is history. So, delighted with him. He's a typical 4x4, very very well matched. Got a couple of interesting little kicker things on each side, but he's my first Coues, and I'm happy. And he's got a one-way ticket to my trophy room.
So I've had the pleasure of knowing Mike Borel for several years, both through Grand Slam Club Ovis and the Wild Sheep Foundation. And fortunate enough for me, in the last couple of years, we've gotten to know each other, and I really wanted him to come do some Coues deer hunting with me and some other hunting out west. And today here in Mexico with THS and Diamond Outfitters, thanks to Pat and George and Francisco and Hector, we found this beautiful warrior chasing a doe, raking trees, making a branch lick, making a scrape. And I think it was a legitimate 8 or 10 hours later, after Mike and I joked that his previous longest wait for an animal to get out of his bed was 3 hours. This guy came back to the very same tree that we saw him at this morning and started making another branch lick and scrape. And Mike got that Huskama up there. We had an incredible shot, just under 370 yards. So again, congratulations, Mike. Thank you for spending some time with us here in Mexico and Arizona. And we're gonna have more fun adventures down the road, I hope. And thanks for watching The Best of the West.
Thank you, Dan. Absolutely. It's challenging, as I mentioned earlier. It's very optics heavy, and if you've already have sheep fever, I know you'll love it. If you don't already know about sheep fever, this would be a good way to get exposed to that kind of hunting. And one of the nice things here is we're able to use four-wheelers to do a tremendous amount of the climbing that we would be doing if it had been a sheep hunt for sure. Anyway, I would absolutely recommend it. They're a beautiful deer. They're not big, they're small, but very handsome, and turns out very tasty. And I'm taking the meat home and looking forward to enjoying it with my family.
About 4 years ago, the Best of the West family welcomed James Catanich for his first bull elk hunt in Arizona. And he killed a great 370 class bull with Diamond Outfitters. Good hit. Good hit, Racket. I approached him and said, "Hey, superstar, how'd you like to be on TV again?" And his eyes kind of got big, and I said, "Yeah, me and T would like to follow you today and maybe help you glass up some deer." He was all about it. So we took off with George and Ernie, and up the hills we went in our side-by-sides and got to our first glassing spot. We all split up and started glassing, and after a little while, George called my attention to a buck he had seen in a what I call a split finger. And I looked in there and I could immediately tell it was just a 2.5-year-old deer. But what was exciting was out of the side of my eye, I saw a doe walk out and over that ridge, and I knew this time of year something had to be right behind her. We didn't know what quality it would be, but within seconds of that, here comes the big frame buck over the hill. And it was that instant adrenaline rush where your body goes, this is a shooter, this is something we need to get a closer look at. It wasn't a tweener buck. We were going back and forth, oh, I'm not sure, da-da-da. And within a couple minutes of us all seeing this buck, we had packed up and made our way back to the side-by-sides.
What I know is they see more shooter bucks in a year than I'll see in a lifetime. If they're excited, I need to be excited as well. So we quickly gathered up all our items, and we started the stalk. We got within 400 yards of the buck where we were able to get a shooting position. At that point, we waited for the buck to present a shooting opportunity. You know, we went through the normal drill. We, you know, ranged 3 times, confirmed the buck, confirmed the yardage. And when I was ready, I took the shot.
Hit him again if you can.
Find the tree.
The Best of the West is brought to you by Hornady, accurate, deadly, dependable. Zeiss spotting scopes and range-finding binoculars. Huntin' Fool. The Best of the West shooting systems. Defiance Custom Actions. The Wild Sheep Foundation. Huskama Optics and LongRangeStore.com. For more information about the products and gear used on today's show, please visit LongRangeStore.com or call 1-866-754-7618. For more information about hunting with Diamond Outfitters in Sonora, New Mexico, or Arizona, please call Dan at 520-730-8147 or online at www.diamondoutfitters.com.
So George was helping James get set up for the shot, and I was validating the range. 1 click, just shy of 400. Boom, 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 range is confirmed. But there's all this anticipation that builds because while we've got the buck where we want him, every time the doe darts, we don't know if this is going to be the one where she goes 5 yards or 500 yards and leaves the country. But as the guide and as the outfitter, we can't let our client feel too much of that anticipation or it'll just make him more nervous. So we were anxiously awaiting the buck to step out, and when he finally did, there was just a little piece of clump there, a little piece of greenery that we just weren't quite comfortable with him shooting through. And it finally took one more step, and I can remember in slow motion, that right shoulder took one more step, and then he stepped out and he stopped. And as a good spotter, George said, "There's your shot, take him when ready." And just shy of 400 yards, he touched off that trigger. And that deer just absolutely piled up, rolled downhill about 10 yards, and completely stopped. Game, set, match.
This is my biggest buck of my life. He is beautiful. Look at the beauty. Oh, look at the beauty, man.
Oh, we almost touched. Oh.
A couple things that made this buck extra special. First, this was my largest Coues buck taken so far, and I'm now a member of the 100-inch club. But what it made this buck the most special was to have 2 dear friends and mentors with me, you know, to share that moment. So, I mean, they've been really good. It was awe-inspiring just to see how large that buck really was. It was an old, mature buck. Dan estimated him at least 5.5 years old. I mean, big body, big rack, a lot of character, you know, big dark horns, a lot of mass. It was a sense of relief, but also an accomplishment. But it wasn't just my accomplishment. You know, George and Dan were there. It was every much of their buck as much as it was mine. I do want to say thank you to Dan with Diamond Outfitters, you know, for the long friendship and the mentorship. I also want to thank Pat Romero and George Alcorta from Trophy Hunts of Sonora for having me down here. I'm looking forward to many more hunts down here in Old Mexico.
And before really even offering James the option, George had already radioed Ernie radioed the cowboy, and the cowboy was deployed. And what's kind of a cool thing too about the cowboys here is we don't get back for lunch very often. We're usually hunting all day, but on the days you do get back for lunch, the mules are sitting there all saddled up, ready to go. The cowboys is excited to come recover the deer as we are to shoot them. So in comes the cowboy, and he comes all the way to us. I mean, truly the ultimate four-wheel drive machine, these mules. Comes all the way to us. With very little effort from us, he was able to get this Coues deer strapped to the second mule's saddle and make some really cool cowboy knots that one day when I grow up I hope to learn how to tie. As he made his way down, he obliged us to take some beautiful footage both on the ground and in the air. Jack O'Connor considered the Coues deer the most difficult of all deer species to kill. And while you may live somewhere that have white-tailed deer in your backyard, this is more like a sheep hunt. It's steep mountains, big glass, and the gray ghost got its name for a reason. It can hide like no other animal. If you've ever even slightly considered doing a Coues deer hunt, now is the time. Don't wait any longer to do the mountain hunts you've always wanted to do.
Thank you for watching this week's episode of The Best of the West. Join us next time for more long-range hunting adventures.